Yeah, I see it. Well, I thought I did. Okay. Welcome to the Reach the World podcast. I was caught off guard just now. How are you guys doing?
Very good.
Blessed.
Thanks
for having us.
Blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some new faces tonight. This will be fun. And we're going to have an amazing conversation about a very important topic that we talked about Sunday at church, which is the difference between correction and rejection. So, this will be fun. That was a fun day on Sunday, wasn't it? It was good.
Very good.
Yeah, it was fun. So I think we'll start just by, why don't you guys first just tell them a little about yourself, how long you've been coming to the Reach, and those types of things.
My name's Eric Hilling. I've been going to the Reach Church for about 4 months now, and I've actually met Tim prior to that at another church. He was a guest pastor, and that's how I kind of got a good start there. But my son attends and my wife attends, and it's been a good experience so far.
Amen.
Yeah.
I love that.
All right, I'm Darren, and I've been going to Reach since my wife and I since beginning of February, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I tell you, first time we came about a year ago, and just knew there was something special going on here. And ever since we've started coming regularly, it's just been confirmation after confirmation every week that we're where God needs us to be. So it's a fantastic spirit-filled experience, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, amen. We love having you guys too. We just prayed for, we pray for God to send people that, could be fathers and that could help pour into other people. Just by default, we get a lot of new Christians. So it's awesome to have some, people that have some experience in that. So, which is a cool topic for tonight, because I think that we're going to expound upon what we talked about on Sunday, which was like correction versus rejection and being able to decipher between the two. So, and it's such an important thing. I see it a lot where rejection is such a prevalent thing in so many people's lives. And it's like, how do you guys, like the three of you can just go as you please, but like, how do you handle rejection in your life? And have you had to handle hard rejection in your life?
I got to tell you, the message was for me, Tim. So I tell you, my personality is like that. Like I think it started when I was a kid, because my parents split when I was 7. And even though my mom really tried to keep both my brother and I involved with my dad's life as much as he would allow it, he just wasn't capable.
Yeah.
And I've learned since I've gotten older that he's just not capable of true love,
right?
In a sense that a father needs to have for his sons.
Absolutely.
He's just a surface guy.
Yeah.
And I've come to accept that. But at the time, it felt like a rejection.
Yeah.
And it's been something I've been dealing with my young adult life, and I think it's carried into my adult life, where that rejection has been something I feel it harder than maybe other people do because of that.
Because of what's happened in your past.
Exactly.
And I think it's important to point that out too. Like, there's so much trauma that can come up out of nowhere, and like you don't even realize sometimes you're responding out of that rejection. And so What about you, Eric?
I think with kids too, we all have kids.
Yeah.
When you correct them, I think sometimes they might take it a little personal and think that you're rejecting them and everything, but you're doing it out of love. And
that's right.
If you're doing it out of love, I mean, hopefully they catch on to that, especially when they get older. I think sometimes the kids might come up to you when they get older and say, I knew, appreciate what you did for us when we were growing up, or what you did for me, because at the time I didn't understand it and I didn't want to accept it. But, as they get older, hopefully they see that. But if you're not correcting your kids, I think that's you're doing them a disservice.
Absolutely.
Especially in today's society.
Yeah. And I think that's what, if you think about it, it's tried to creep in a little bit. Like, basically, just let them, they'll just be fun. Like I believe, like you shouldn't beat them till they can. But like, I know that when I grew up, like I got corrected. And because of that, now I can look at situations through the lens of like respect and honor and stuff like that. And so, So Micah, what about you?
Correction versus rejection. And just to kind of expand, I'll piggyback off of what Darren was saying, like, and you said trauma, like, I think a lot of my rejection came at an early age through loss and through trauma that happened early on that I just didn't quite understand at that time. And then when I was corrected through things growing up at that early age without the love of the Father, just kind of like told what to do or when to do it, how to do it. You're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you got it, and was never given anything to reinforce why I felt rejected. And on top of loss and death and different things, it felt even more. It opened up an avenue for the enemy to come in and dictate my mind at such an early age.
Right.
As I got older, the only way I knew how to respond was automatic, whether out of pride, or out of aggression, or out of control. And so now, as I've got a little older through some of that, and through the Reach United, and through some of my leaders and spiritual mentors and stuff, I've learned that correction. I tell you what, a few years ago, matter of fact, when you brought me into this, when I started my first initial walk, you and Pastor Jamie and a few people said, nobody cares what you know until they know nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. So once I was able to establish and the people around me cared about me, cared about my well-being, then I was able to receive from them. But that had to be established first. I had to know that you had my back, and you wasn't doing it out of malicious intent. It was out of genuine love, and then it changed my perspective on things.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, is to look at the fact of like, okay, so even as grown-ups, it's okay. Like, I think the tricky part of it, pride will talk you out of like even bringing it up, right? Because you have to take into consideration every person had a different upbringing, right? So there's stuff that happened, in Darren's childhood that maybe didn't happen in Eric's childhood, and there's, and it's like there's this. That means that, and that's just why it's so important, I think, too. Like, how we receive and handle these things, because even as we're like within a church body, people still look at like, okay, how are they going to respond when this happens? Or are they, or is their response really going to be not, they don't just push people away when they're mad? And so even because of that trauma, and it comes in. So I think that one thing that I've noticed, I'll say too, about you, Eric, and you with Cody, your guys' relationship, it's one that is not a real common thing, to be honest with you. And my experience and what I've seen, just throughout, my life, it's not real common to have a father that's a loving father that's, shares his feelings with his son and actually, shows emotion and has a nurturing spirit towards him. That is when I first met you all, and I thought that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, man, he loves his son, and you can tell just by his action towards him. And it's such a picture. I've always thought it's a picture of like, the way God loves us. Like you go after them, and you pursue, and it's just been a cool thing for me to see. And I've always seen that. And to be honest with you two, there was a reason I thought tonight that you two and me and Micah could have a conversation with you guys, because you both, and it's crazy because I'd like to know a little bit more about your upbringing, because I do now know about yours some, because you both carry a similar type of fathering type of spirit with you. And so, I'm curious to see if your upbringing was, different than Darren's in that sense.
Well, it was quite differently, actually. And my father passed away when I was 5. So my mother never remarried. I have a twin sister.
Wow.
And so everything through life, my mom did her best with us growing up, but she worked 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
My twin sister and I had a job when we were 13 years old.
Wow.
And we delivered papers in the morning. So, from that, I never really had a father figure in my life. So when my wife and I were blessed enough to have Cody first, I wanted to do things different.
Yeah.
And, as parents, you're never perfect with what you do.
Right.
And, I think I told you sometimes in situations with him and my other two kids, you kind of take the situation for granted. But, as you get older and start following Christ the way you should,
Yeah.
a lot of things that happen in your life and in your kids' life, it opens your eyes to a lot of things, and you love them more unconditionally.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of like, I don't know how to phrase it, but it's just an unconditional love. Okay,
Yeah.
you made that mistake, but I still love you. It's not.
Right.
I'm not punishing you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after a while, you start getting it.
Yeah, that's
And,
so true. It's like that is what.
And you start struggling with them.
Yeah,
Because you feel for the situation.
Yeah.
So, it's it's a little different than his.
It is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting you said that.
Yeah.
I didn't know your story either, but the fact is, we both grew up without father figures in our lives.
Yeah.
And we both had a mother that had to raise 2 kids on her own. And in a way, she had to kind of be that parental figure, both on the father and mother side. And women aren't built to do that. Men aren't built to be mothers.
Right.
Women aren't built to be fathers. So she did the best that she could. And maybe that had an influence on how we became fathers as well.
Right.
Maybe we're more nurturing as a result. Maybe we
That's
have
true.
that.
Wanted
Yep.
to be different than the way we were brought up.
Exactly.
You want better
Yeah.
for your kids than the way you grew up, and I always have, and I still always do.
Yep.
And going back to the beginning, I knew Tim just met him that one time at the church. I even was talking to Darren on the way over. I even told the story, and I said, I wonder why. That'd be cool if Tim would be the preacher over here. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those situations. But when the first time we walked into the Reach Church, what was so impressive was, and I knew it was different, like you were saying, there was something special. Tim walked up to us and introduced himself, and he came up and he goes, I know you. And I was like, well, I know you. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
But it was a good fit, and it still is.
Yeah.
And the things that I'm involved in now with this church, I still have a lot of things I'd like to do, but getting baby steps, I never did that.
Yep.
And you can tell, even Mike over here, Mike and I become pretty close.
Yeah.
He's my partner with the men's Bible study that we're going to, and I love him.
Yeah.
And it's a different, we could call it the Band of Brothers, but it really is.
Yeah. I've heard such good things.
There's that group that goes there, and I know it's going to grow even more, but you can rely on everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what's different with this church. You don't feel judged.
Yeah.
It's a safe zone for everything, and you just feel welcome when you walk in. From the time you walk in and hear your message, and when you leave, it's different.
I love
definitely
that.
Feel the spirit in there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do. I love that, and that's both. And both of you have that's. I love the fact too that you both came in, and you didn't just obviously you observed for a moment, but then you both have stepped into roles where I feel like our church needed. It's funny how God calls you there, and you're like, well, I needed this church. Well, you know what? That church needed you too. And so both of you guys, and I felt that with both of you, it's the men's group that you started, and this, even going back to the grounds cleaning day. Okay. Up until this year, it was just, there was be a group of us, and y'all know the core little group. Outside of that, it's been so beautiful to see, new people come and connect, and for us to be able to build our family. I love that, man. I love that it's different, because my prayer was, when we were in the park the first time, I wasn't trying to start a church. That wasn't the goal. I just knew what God told me to do, and I wanted to be obedient. And then after a while, it became pretty apparent, okay, we're going to be a church. And so I think that, but that was one thing I told God, I was like, I don't want to just be like all the other, I don't want to just do it and go through the motions and it be just something that we do because, or this is my job, or I don't want it to be a job. I want it to be my calling.
Love your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's really encouraging for us to hear that, because we prayed for it to be different, where you did walk in and you didn't feel judged, and you felt like you had a place, and no matter what your background was, whether it was great or not, you could walk in and feel like you had a family. And I love that.
It makes me think of that comment you always make, is if God shows you a need, you're probably the solution.
That's right.
So
That's
he
right.
showed you the need for a different, that's something different that is totally out of unreligious, untraditional. Just showed you the need, and then you're the solution. It's funny because he always tells me that. He's always saying if he shows it to you, that you're the solution. Sometimes it's You know what I mean? But then it's like it shows.
Don't
he's
ignore
sure.
it.
Yeah, no.
Don't ignore it. He's coming again.
That's right. He'll keep knocking. He'll keep on. And I'll keep on too. I'll be like, come on. That's so funny. Yeah, and that's, and I think that one thing that is really cool too, with you both having that type of spirit in our church, is there's so many people in our church that have already connected to you guys and just value, who you are in their life. And I love that part of it, man, because that has been such a prayer for me. It's like, let's build a family, but we need, we got to have fathers. And so that's how you build family. Father is the cornerstone of it. And so I just, I've always loved that fact of, what you both do. And you're both always willing to step in with whatever needs done. Like Darren was up there changing light bulbs right before service on Sunday, burn his hand. I think.
He can prove it.
Yeah, he can show you his scar. Look, I serve at the church. Look at my hand. That's funny. So I guess it comes down to what, how do you, whenever you feel that creeping up, and this is the thing, I would say that it's probably safe to say in some degree, we all still, have to battle through rejection and how to look at a situation. So when you feel that creeping up, when you feel that rejection starting to creep up, because, it's a real thing, what do you guys do to kind of overcome it, if you will?
I can tell you what I do that's not good first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good to know
talk
too.
About the other thing.
Yeah.
And I'll just use my relationship with my wife as an example, because it does, it spills into that just like everything else, right? Yeah. And my wife is pretty blunt at times. She's
very direct.
She'll tell you when something's not right.
I love that quality about her too.
That is a great quality. Yeah. I don't always love it, Tim, I'll tell you. But no, I do. I respect her a lot.
And you're in trouble.
You're on the board.
But she will tell me when she disagrees with me or when she doesn't think something's right.
Yeah.
And I need that. We all need that correction.
Yeah.
Right? And it sometimes it feels like rejection for
me. It does, right.
And I'll see it that way. I'll feel it that way, and I'll respond badly to it. Right? And that's when I know I'm in my flesh, right?
Yep.
My pride is getting the better of me.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm right. I've got this strong justice gene. If it doesn't feel right to me, you're wrong. I'm in the right here.
Yep.
And I know I've got to confess that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Get over it.
Yep.
And then I have to get right with her, and I have to say, okay, you had a point. I didn't listen to you. And I need to respect when you have that point. So that you got to get past that emotional reaction first of, hey, I don't like what I'm hearing. It makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
And you focus on that feeling. That's when you start getting into the sin of it.
Yeah.
Right. And you start saying, I'm going to put myself first, and God and whoever is trying to correct me is in the wrong, and I'm not going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And that's when you start going off the path. So if you can get past that initial feeling of this hurts me, my feelings are are most important.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get past that and say, no, I hear what you're saying. Let me tell you what I think I hear you saying. And then let's get to the heart of the matter instead of listening to the tone of voice or the words you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Let's deal with okay, what am I doing wrong, and let's fix it.
I love that, but that's hard sometimes.
It is hard.
It is. It's killing every bit of your flesh, because to be able to say, in any case, for anybody, to be able to say, you know what, I'm wrong, you're right. That's never an easy thing.
No, that's
and,
right.
We all desire to be right all the time, and so it's like having the humility, though, I guess is a good word, to be able to come underneath those feelings and respond in that way, I think is key. And that's one thing too. I always, and you have to, it's something that you always have to guard against, right? Pride always tries to creep in, and you always want to be the one right, and this is the way it should be, and this is the way, especially I've noticed too, as you're a leader, that tries to creep in even more, meaning the fact of it's like you could easily just be that leader that's like, no, this is the way we're doing, and you can't be that and be effective. And you can't lead like this. I've always heard you have to lead like this. And so whenever you do that, it changes the way. So no longer is it, I'm doing this for them. No, it's like, no, we're all now doing it unto the Lord, because it's not about right. It's not about who's on the top, who's on the bottom. It's about effectiveness in the kingdom. And so I've always tried to like approach leadership in that way, but I could see where it would be so easy for that to creep in and you just be like, well, nope, I said this is the way it's going to be and that's the way it's going to be. But one thing that I've always valued is other people's opinions. Mm-hmm. I really have. I feel like if I can lead in a way that I can hear every perspective and then, having to make a judgment call based off of the ones that come in and say stuff you don't want to hear, even taking that in and then trying to base your judgment off of that. And I think that's the way, I don't know, that's the way to lead. I remember one time we were in like a little leadership meeting and somebody was like, I can't believe you're just sitting there listening to them like that. And I was like, of course I am. Why would I not? If God put someone here, how do I know that what they're saying is not the very thing that we should be doing? Right. And so it's like, and then that's the flip side of it, the pride side of it, killing the pride, and then identifying the rejection, like you just said, being able to look at it and say, okay, this is creeping up. And I think my coping mechanism was that it was defense. As soon as I feel it, that rejection, I'm going to get defensive. And that was the way I responded for a long time. And it took a while to work through that, man, especially you come out of, very broken lifestyles and you have all these toxic traits that you bring in. And then it's like, how can I not, personalize this and be able to look at it through a lens that'll allow me to grow? Because that's what it's about ultimately,
Right.
And if you don't talk about it, like what Darren was saying, because same thing with my wife, 33 years and, you work on it all the time. But if you don't, if you're not on the same page or like sit back and say, hey, can we talk about this or whatever? And, it festers and it becomes a problem and it just keeps building on and building on and building on until, being a stamp collector, after a while, you just kind of get upset. And,
that's good.
After a while. Same sentiments, same exact thing. That's exactly what I was going to say is what you were saying, Darren. I agree.
That's so good. Yeah, that's so good. Micah, how about you? How do you sense that rejection creeping up? How's it show its face in your life?
Usually when my physical sensations first, I should start there. I start to feel like panicky. I might get flushed. I feel my blood pressure starting to rise. Like I start noticing that first. Or I'm trying to, but before it was just like, shh, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
I'm starting to tone down. Trying my best to and hearing what people. So like I just wanted, like I said, it's like knowing that people care about me. You know what I mean? Taking that direction, seeing other people do it ahead of me, or see that, okay, we're talking about wives, for instance. It's no secret. I go through the same things. Nicolette and I, we have our differences. We're both very opinionated, hard-headed at times. We want a certain way. And then I have to realize, I've realized that, she is a woman. She runs on emotions. You know what I mean? I run on feelings. So I'm feeling a certain type of way. Her emotions is getting like that. So when we have a disagreement, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes I'll lash out or yell or think, because part of me is like I'm thinking, well, I'm the man of the family. This is going to be, this is it. And
that's just how that ends up.
You're on the board now. But then, then I have to think about my Nicolette. This is my wife. And, even as she sent me something. It's funny that we were talking about wives, because right prior to this, she sent me a video. She was like, just watch this. Not that she was like, I just want you to watch. And she's, telling me that my relationship with my wife is the very most important relationship before God. That relationship is the closest that we're going to get to the love of God.
Well, yeah, because you're the bride of Christ. Yeah, right. So it's a similar outlook on it.
So,
it is.
The more that I'm getting educated on things like that, the easier I'm able to identify that rejection. Insecure. I don't really know how to put it into words. It's just getting better over time. I see people that's done it ahead of me. I'm being more vulnerable, being more open, not afraid to be like, you know what, I'm struggling in marriage right now. We're like, it's bad. Or different relationships with my friends or something, and just being open. And before I was so afraid to just keep it locked in. I was afraid of what people thought about me, where it was going to go. Is it going to affect my security? Is it going to affect? There's multiple things.
Absolutely.
That cause rejection. Or for us to keep it bottled up. You know what I mean?
That's the key. It's like what you just said. If you can share it.
Sharing it.
If you can, like, what you bring to the light no longer has power, right? And that's not, like you just said, it because of your, previous rejection, it's easier just to hold it in sometimes than it is to bring it out and just to say, like, I'm just going to stuff these feelings, especially as the hardest thing I think, for men is, like, I don't know. I grew up, listen, the region I grew up in, the same region Micah grew up in, it was in the coal country of West Virginia. So there was a certain type of, like, culture there, like men weren't, they were just kind of like, they worked in the coal mines and they came home and, the wives would usually just work, be stay-at-home moms. And it was a different type of culture than I've seen in other places. So I didn't see a whole lot of, and now my dad, he's came a long way on, just his response to, emotionally and things like that, because he was in his childhood, 16 years old, had to go start working in the mines because his, parents kind of abandoned them. So, he had his own stuff he was bringing into, being a young parent. And it was like, we all kind of learned together, and now our relationship's great. But I can say, growing up, it wasn't like he wasn't like when I see you and Cody, it wasn't like that, but now it is. But it took a lot to get there for both of us. And so it's cool that God's, brought that together because, he's, have y'all ever heard my dad speak before? He's from a town called Welch, West Virginia.
Yeah.
Y'all will meet him in a couple weeks. And he, if you've ever, because see, Darren's not even from here at all. Eric is, but here you got your guys' accent. The further south you go, let me tell you, the accent just gets stronger and stronger and stronger to where my dad, he's because he moved from where he's from to Beckley, the Beckley area but right before I was born. So I didn't grow up where he grew up.
That's the city.
That's the city. It is. And so the further south you go, the stronger the accent gets to where you're saying McDonald's now. You're not saying McDonald's. I hope you're watching this, Dad, because that is how you say it.
That is true. It's McDonald's.
Yeah, it is. And then I'm like, but anyways, I guess the point was like, and then I go with Eddie James, and y'all hear me talk about him a lot, and just like a, huge ball of love, and it was like, wait, what?
Culture shock.
This is, complete culture shock. And it was like, here's this man, he's very just, like talk through your emotions type, stuff that we should have known, but, like if you don't know, you don't know. Mm-hmm. And it was wild to me. And it really taught me, because I was, always like, I felt like I, had that nurturing thing in me, but, I didn't know, is it okay for a man to exercise that? Stuff like that. So I loved, that experience because I got the discipline and the correction from my father, and he raised me up to have good character and things like that. And then, and then from Eddie, from, being a spiritual father, I learned, it's okay to show your emotions. It's okay to love. It's okay to let your walls down. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to be it's okay. And so that I think is important too, for people to see a picture of that. Like if the Bible says in Ephesians, for, like you just said, for us to love our wives the way that Christ loves the church, then he loves the church on a level that's transparent, that's emotional, that's open, that's honest. And it's like, okay, but our picture of what we see in our life's not always that. Mm-hmm. And so
right.
Rejection's tough. You know what I mean? Like I can handle correction. I'd like to have correction.
It is.
I don't even like the word rejection anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think maybe that the rejection has been taken completely off the table to me. It's up to me whether I get in a spirit of offense or, I can either look at it like, did I just get corrected or am I being rejected? And that's the difference today. It's like, wait a minute, I got a decision.
Yeah.
Is it a lesson or is it a loss?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Mike.
Right.
Yeah,
I got a choice today whether it's rejection or correction.
Yeah,
and my wife's good at bringing me back to reality.
Mm-hmm.
Mine too,
with a lot of things, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah,
and it wasn't always. I never felt that. It took a while, But, I can honestly say, and, I'm around guys at work or whatever, she's my best friend.
Yeah.
And it took years of building that up, and, no marriages are perfect.
Yeah.
But when your Christ is at your center, and it has been for the last, like I said, 12, 13, 14 years or whatever it might be, we still have our arguments, but there's a lot of times I'm going back to her saying, hey, I'm sorry what I said or how I acted or whatever. I should have handled this a little bit differently. And, I can, and she's usually always right.
I at least have to go do that once a day.
So
once a day I have to say, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But Tim, you said something a minute ago about, someone brought something up in a leadership discussion. You weren't sure. Someone wasn't sure whether we should be listening to it or not, right?
Yep.
And you said something about how do you know God didn't place that person here to give us that very same instruction. And that's what I think. That's I think what we need to do when we're getting correction and we're starting to feel like, hey, I'm taking offense to this. Maybe we ought to be seeing it in the lens of maybe this is God speaking through this person. You may not like what they're saying or how they're saying it even, but this may be a message you need to hear. And God has placed that person in front of you to tell you this because He needs you to change something.
So good. That's so good.
Absolutely.
I maybe think that's a part proportional to my level of acceptance too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? How much am I willing to accept?
Yeah. Well, and that comes
things being exactly the way they're supposed to be at exactly that moment.
Yeah, and I think that then that comes. I I try to have a routine in the morning. It's mornings and nights, and to where like if I start my day, man, I'm not going to start it without praying, reading my word, and getting I try to. No matter what, you told me this too one time, Eric. I'd love for you to tell people that because I love that. I've always been interested in this too. It's like my morning. I have to have a good hour, man. It's just and it's different for everybody. But like I just feel like number one, it takes me a minute to get woke up, and then I have to to make sure that I get my spirit ready for the day, my mind right, and my and it's not always that way. Like on Sundays, I try to wake up several hours before I even have to go to the church because I want to like pray and privately and just like build myself up spiritually so that I can do whatever God wants me to do. But I'll try to do that every day. But yeah, you was telling me your routine and I think this stuff's important concerning what you just said, Micah.
Well, I get up every morning at 5, but regardless, my routine is I get up, get in the shower, but I always give 15, 20 minutes of my morning to reading the Bible or my devotional. I honestly, and for me personally, I don't know about anybody else, but if that didn't happen, I don't know how my day would really go.
Yeah.
It would proceed forward, but it would still, I'd be missing something.
It'd feel different.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a good word.
Yeah.
It would be different for me. And I can't remember the last time that I missed it, but I know I've been rushed a couple times.
Yeah.
But I still find time to do it. And to me, it's very important that I get it in. Yeah. It's a regimen that I've actually fallen into. And anything that kind of gets me out of whack, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
But I've told you that before, and that's just how I started.
That stuck out to me because I think when you do that, you're kind of getting yourself mentally, spiritually, and you're kind of putting your flesh under subjection to the spirit. And, because anything you do, what you feed yourself with is what's going to rule and reign in your life and direct your life, right? So if you don't feed yourself spiritually, your flesh is going to direct. Mm-hmm. And so that stuff I think is so important of, am I in the right headspace to be able to receive it? It's like, well, did I kill my flesh this morning? Before I started my day, did I? And so, do y'all have any routines like that? What do you?
I do something similar to Eric.
Do you?
And I'll second what he just said. Is if I rush through it in the morning, and I've done this occasionally, if I rush through it, or maybe I get to it later, right? I get up late. I'm like, I just need to go. I'll come back to my Bible reading later. It makes a difference in my day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not a positive difference.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
I feel it feels like I didn't get enough sleep that day, or I didn't eat right, or something like that. It's the same kind of thing. If you don't feed your spirit, it will affect your day.
Absolutely.
It affects how you approach things. It affects how you react to people.
Yeah.
And I can definitely feel that lack of preparation when it's not
good. Absolutely. That's huge. That's really huge.
Well, as far as my scheduling goes, I'll be the first to admit. I mean, mine, it varies. Am I on a solid regiment like you's? Absolutely not. Do I lack in that area? I do. But look, to back up what you say, usually, at some point through my day, though, I do get in the Word, and it's, and I know it's no excuse, but I've surrounded myself with enough spiritual mentors and fathers, or I shouldn't say father, but spiritual guys
father. Yeah, that's a good word.
In my life, you know what I mean? That when I don't discipline myself to sit down and read in the morning, there's always those gentle gestures. Here's a devotional sent from you. Here's a devotional sent from you. So it's like then when I so where we've been doing that leadership thing, there was one of the matter of fact, it was last week. One of those in there was reflective thinking. Yeah. So when I do sit down and I think reflectively, it's like that is always real prevalent. Yeah. That's basically the most important right here. That is the most prevalent thing, and it's tells me that that's highly important. So, I'm getting better.
Man, it's growth. It's all growth, man.
It's a hard discipline. It's hard to discipline, personally for me.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
It's hard to discipline myself to sit down, focus, and I could justify it by saying I'm high strung, I'm always on the go, just my personality, the way I'm built. And to some point, there is some validity to that. That's just who I am, I get up in the morning and I'm ready to go. Like you said, it takes Pastor Tim, it takes you a second. Yeah. I don't know about y'all, but I can jump right up, get in the shower, and
I can't do that.
Do what I need to do. Right. You know what I mean? That's just how I'm wired.
Yep. Yeah.
So I have to really force myself to discipline.
Slow down and stop. Yeah, because your personality is very go. And I have some similar traits of that, but I hear something. What was that? Did y'all hear something?
But it's getting better, and I think it's important surrounding, that's why it's important. And that might go back to that corrective. Now I've established where Tim, you can be like Pastor Tim, can be like Micah. You need to slow down. You need to do this, and this, and I can receive that. Mm-hmm. Not 98% of the time. There's times where I submit to him to where I'm just like, I don't agree with that, but I'm going to submit. Yeah. Who don't? Who don't?
Well, that point right there, I think let's talk about that for a moment. Submission. Does that word? It can sound so bad to people, can't it? It can, if you have trauma in your past. That word in itself, and I know that Micah and I's worked a bunch through that. You know what I mean? Just what does that word mean, and why, when we hear it, does it sound like a negative thing?
Well, in the MMA, you're losing the battle.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're submitting, you're
tucking your tail between your legs.
You're going to lose.
That's good.
Really, it's quite rewarding. Yeah, because you're like, okay. Now, when I do submit, I'm like, okay.
It actually leads.
I don't have to worry about that no more.
Yeah.
It can lead to freedom.
Yeah,
it actually can.
Yes. Absolutely.
If you submit your will to God, that's not giving up. That's not rolling over and giving up on something. It's actually giving away the things you're carrying that you don't need.
Yeah, that's good.
And you're in the growing stage.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's we're built. The enemy's pretty slick about how he does things. He'll plant them seeds of that will have you to the point where that word immediately sounds like something negative when. And like you said, even I never thought of it in that way. You lose if you submit and fighting, right? And I thought it was interesting too. So you have a background of you were in the military for a lot of years, and I wondered, I've always wondered because I've never been in the military. I don't know. Does that because I know they kind of not reprogram you. They build you up, kind of beat you down, build you up type thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so how does that play any role, you think, in just how you approach life in general? I do know this. You have your mindset, and I love it, like the band of brothers thing. I love that camaraderie part of it. I feel like that you carry very well, and that to me seems like a quality that you pick up in the military, but that we should have in the body of Christ too.
Yeah, for sure. And Paul talks about it, right? In his letters, he kind of brings the military formation into the discipline that we're supposed to have. But yeah, I mean. One thing about the military, it will humble you for starters, right? Yeah. I mean, when I left high school, let's be honest, I was never going to be a good student. Right. Starting in high school. I said, I'm not going to go to college. I don't want anything to do with school. I was going to get a trade school thing and just go. I had no direction in my life when I was leaving high school. And if I hadn't gone in the military, I don't know where I would have been, but I can tell you I wouldn't be here.
Right.
So yeah, you go in the military, the first thing they do is they humble you.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have all seen movies about boot camp.
Oh, yeah.
They definitely tear you down.
Yeah.
But then you're right. They tear you down to get rid of the stuff
Yeah.
that you're bringing in that's keeping you from
Right.
growing.
Yeah.
And then they start building you back up.
Yep.
Right? They start giving you the strength. They start giving you the discipline. They start giving you the order. And then all of a sudden you can do more.
Yep.
Because you figure out how to work well with others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You start working as a team. You start contributing instead of being your own person.
Yeah. That's so good.
And that's where you learn how submitting
Yeah.
to the will of the military, or in that case,
Yep.
you actually get better as a result.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
so
think-
good, man. Think about that. That's like it's a great way to look at submission too, because the military is submit. I mean, like there's no way around it. You're going to submit in the military.
Yeah.
But that's a good quality to learn. And so, that's where I wondered if that quality in itself came easier, because it was something that was like, instilled inside of you, as a young age. And so, yeah, that's interesting.
Darren, I think we are related because I was in the Navy as well.
All right.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
You did tell me that.
Yeah,
you did.
yeah. So same structure. That's exactly, they break
Yeah.
you down, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm a little OCD today.
Man, that's why there's some similar qualities too.
I think we somewhere along the pathway.
Brother
maybe.
from another mother.
Brother
Yeah.
from another mother. That's what it is.
You guys really do have a lot of similar qualities. It is amazing. It's funny because you think if like you could see a reflection, like if the way someone's brought up, the way they, like you can tell someone that has a real strong discipline in their life. You can just see it, it reflects in their life. And now that makes sense. Now that makes a lot of sense.
It kind of backs up a little bit. Like, I just want to back up just a tad and speak on that. So I wasn't in the military, and we were talking about our fathers. So mine and my father's relationship growing up was really rocky, and me and my fathers talk about this today. My father had his bouts with alcoholism and different things, and was in and out, but he was a military man. And he did his time, and my uncles, his brothers, and my dad was very meticulous. Mm-hmm. My dad is very OCD. He's very organized. He's very clean. He's very, regardless of what he did, he was always a certain way. And so I grew up seeing that, and being around that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing that gets me in a fence. And just to go back with me and my wife, we're polar opposites with certain things like that. At our house, I want things like this because that's just the way I was raised. Everything's got a place. Everything, all the clothes to be folded. There's different things like that. And Nicolette, she's clean, but she's, it's cool,
It's messy. Yeah.
Like, that's fine. And it's like drives me crazy. So talking about submission, like I've really had to learn, and it's helped me a lot over the last few years being married to my best friend. Mm-hmm. And, but it's helped me in submission because I got to the point where I'm just like,
whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
So and then there's that area worked itself out, and then there's other things that we're working on. I'm learning.
Choose your
but it
battle.
all leads back.
That's good
Choose your
advice.
battles.
It always,
Go along to get along. Right?
That's right.
That's such good advice. It is.
but it all leads back to discipline. Mm-hmm. It all leads back.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the struggle with correction and rejection in totality. And if I'm perceiving it correctly, if I have discipline in my life, then I can either receive or reject.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It all comes back to discipline for me.
That's right. Very
What am I
good.
disciplining myself for?
Totally agree.
Yeah. I thought it'd be interesting too, for the last 15 minutes to talk about, okay, so how does your wife, okay, so we're all married here. So I was just thinking about this, and Micah was using this as an example of like how, the traits that are opposite are challenging, but also sharpening at the same time. So, I wonder, out of curiosity, well, I know your wife, but I don't know your wife, like that. I feel like, cause, I do know Liz's personality. And so how has that sharpened you? How's it affected you? Like, is one of you, like for me and Abby, I'm the one that lives in the world of, just we're going big, or we're going, going, and she's the one that's like, okay, but how, How are we going to do that?
I'm sorry. I can't
And I'm just like, here we are. I don't know.
The thing is, you're going to help me with that. That's what he's
God might have given me a gift of faith. I'm just like, we're going. I don't know. Or it's like when you've lost everything, you're not scared to risk everything. I don't know, And so
that's so true.
Yeah, and I've thought of that too, because it's like sometimes people's like, that was risky. I was like, I didn't even think of that. I just was like, let's go. And then if I feel like it's the Lord, I always go. But it drives people crazy. It drives a lot of people crazy. It does. It drives a lot of people crazy. Especially you got to think about different personalities that God places around you, right? So I'm just like, well, God said it. Let's go. And then you take somebody like Liz or Tiffany or somebody that's like, what?
What's the next step?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Don't tell me about 5 miles from now. Like, what do we do to get out the door? Right?
That's right. That's right. And so that's how it is with Abby. It's very good because she's always been. It was such a man. God, blessed me so much because she's so supportive of the vision that God's placed inside of me. No matter, I mean, she trusts that, man. Yeah. But then I've learned to trust her discernment whenever it comes up.
That's right.
And that's the key. I think it's like, I'll have the big vision that'll take us somewhere, but without your discernment, we're going to get blindsided the whole way there.
Yeah, same. That's true.
Yeah, so that's one area I can look at with Abby and I and say, and even when in gifting, it's like, hers is, very structured day-to-day type thing, and mine's more like, bigger picture type, of stuff, and it's like, but it works well. It works well together. Yeah. Never knew that when God places you with a person, the way they're going to grow you,
That's
too.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what about you guys?
I guess I would say that, Liz is very meticulous, and she asks a lot of tough questions sometimes about things, and she makes me think harder as a result, right? Like, I'm not just going to come with a half-baked idea to her anymore.
Right.
Like I used to, because all of a sudden I'm going to get 15 questions about how is this going to work. So now I'm better prepared. Usually.
Yep.
I think about things a lot more, and when I want to propose something or hey, let's go do a vacation or whatever, I'm gonna have some details associated with that, right?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite movies, I guess, is Something's or As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got that line in there that says, "You make me want to be a better man."
Yeah.
I mean, what a line, right?
Yeah.
But that is true.
Yeah.
It is
there
true.
Is so much
when
truth.
you're with the right person like that, they make you want
Absolutely.
to be better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's right.
Yep.
And she does that.
That's so good.
And same with Mindy. I'm going to be honest with you. I've told many people this. She's the glue in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can expound on that for a long time.
Yep.
But, the kids know it too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you something simple as, like Christmases. Even when they were young till now, if it wasn't Mindy taking the lead, here's some money, go do what you want to do. I'm just not that structured and organized as she is.
Yeah.
But she's always, one thing I've learned, she always puts everybody first.
Yeah.
And that's a God's honest truth.
Yeah.
She always takes a back seat. She always has, and she always will.
That's awesome.
But the way she is in our family, I'm not afraid to admit it. She pays the bills.
Right. Same. Abby does too.
And I've never once questioned her.
Yep.
Never had to. But, we work on budgets here and there sometimes or whatever. But she has always been the glue in our family. And I can honestly say she's my better half.
Yeah.
And I'm a better person for her. There's even times, even after 33 years of marriage, I'm still trying to impress her. Whether I am or not. But, but
I got to give you this one. But I love that, man, because that's encouraging. You know what I mean?
She may not know that. She might now. But there are times that I'm like, all right, I got to do something not to be so stupid. You know what I mean? Make her not
so
make me
true.
look so stupid. I got to fix, but it works well. Being in a marriage that long, we have certain duties in the house, and you don't even discuss it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She cooks all the time. I clean up.
Yeah.
It's a simple stuff.
Cheers.
Simple stuff. Simple things like that. You know what I mean? I can make a mean breakfast, but that's it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She does the rest.
I make
but
toast.
It works.
I make toast too. That's what I make. Yeah, I can toast with Nutella. If we're not cooking today, we got some Nutella in the cabinet. And some
I agree. Nicolette's the same that way. Like she's very. She's very simple. Just materialistic. It doesn't matter to her. You know, she just she's good. You know what I mean? Takes a back seat to most. You know what I mean? Don't want to be out there like, you know. So I find myself, you know, because I'm an extrovert. She's an introvert. You know what I mean? She's good at being it, and I want to be out like talking to people, meeting people. So but it works. You know what I mean? Because what I lack, she makes me better in.
Yeah.
She completes you.
And what she may lack, I hope anyways that I'm making her better. And I can hope, and I believe that's so. It's amazing that's how the Lord puts things together, because I see the common theme. It's almost basically the same. Like everybody's like
wouldn't be here. Like
almost as opposite, but works. You know what I mean?
It does. Right. It does. And I could honestly say there's no way that like the stuff that, you know, we do now would happen without Abby Kraft. The church, none of it, man. I'm telling you, it's like, you know, you think about it, you know, what, just the cornerstone of your marriage, you know, obviously is Christ, but then the next, you know, stone right beside that's usually the wife. And like you said, Eric, she holds it all together. She, you know, that is just a great mother to, you know, like those types of characteristics that are like, sometimes I look at Abby and I'm just like, how does she even do it? I don't even know how she, you know,
Absolutely.
I don't even understand how she does it all. You know, like I just don't get it.
Yep.
And so, we're all very blessed men, it sounds like. And,
very true.
Yeah. And then when she's, one thing too, it's like you learn over, you know, years of marriage, how to communicate with one another in a way where it's like, it does, you know, you're still going to have disagreements, obviously, and stuff like that. But it's like you learn to communicate in a way that, you know, okay, you can read the other person well enough to know, like, okay, well, this ain't something we're talking about right now, you know, or just bring this up later.
Staying away from that much.
Yeah, it's not the time. Let me step out. And so, but it's good because it's like conflict resolution, you know, and it's as long as it doesn't become an unhealthy trait where you're just stuffing your feelings. Right. But that's one thing I will say, like, you know, we are both pretty good about just saying how we feel without it being like harsh. We're both pretty gentle with our words, you know. So that's good.
I just wanted to share one more thing, Pastor. I know we're about over. You just said it, conflict resolution. So we're talking about rejection and correction. That has helped me more over the last few years, is that when I do fall short and it feels like rejection and this big old thing comes out, that I have important people around me to help me resolve that conflict in a more positive manner. And over time, it has helped me to get through, to identify when I'm feeling rejection by conflict resolution.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Man, this has been fun. So I think Dennis is trying to call it in. Let's see if we can get him on here, and then we'll close it out. And what do you guys got any closing thoughts as we see if it's going to come through? I didn't have a missed call from him, so it might be something on my end.
I really like what Micah said earlier about the fact that the difference between accepting the correction or feeling rejection is really about your mindset. It's really about are you gonna take the correction, or are you just gonna push it away? And it's really about your spirit, right? How do you prepare your spirit to take it? Are you going to accept it for what it's going to do for you, or are you going to push it away and miss out?
Right. That's good. That's good. So we have Pastor Dennis Craig on here.
Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Gentlemen.
Dude, you got to get home soon.
Tiffany going crazy without you. You better get
here. You ain't been on 24 hours.
I haven't. I literally have not been gone for 24 hours.
Well, you better get back.
I just want to know how y'all get away with not being the cook in your family.
Oh, well, yeah. That's like, I don't know.
My wife doesn't want me in the kitchen, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of a
What deal did y'all make with the Holy Spirit? It gave you that blessing. That's all I want to know.
We spent a lot of time in prayer on that one. Huh?
I like to pretend.
No, I've been listening. I've been listening tonight and been just blessed by hearing. And I love Tim and I love Micah, but I love hearing from Eric and Darren. Mm-hmm. Hearing the new perspectives.
Yeah, I agree.
From folks that have not been, I guess, around at the reach as long.
Yeah.
But the question I have is this, and this is for all of you. I would love to hear. Then I'm gonna hang up and just listen to y'all answer. what is it about correction, not the rejection part, the correction itself, that you feel helps lead you in the right direction? Like, what is it? Like, I guess the best way is, what style of correction works best for you all?
Mm.
Because everyone receives it different.
That's
So
good.
what style works best to point you in the right direction?
That's a good question.
I love you guys.
Love you, Dennis.
See you, Dennis. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we'll start. Who wants to go first?
Hammer over the head.
I'll just give it to me straight up.
That's
just
right.
pull me in, let me straighten out, and be like, this is it.
Just tell me.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Or can we talk?
Yeah.
I know where you're going.
Yep, that's it. Don't beat around the bush, huh?
That's right.
I do think I would agree with that one. I would say that, like, I just want to get to what I hate sometimes is the 18 steps you take to get to the place you were trying to get to. And so for me, I think just the directness is a good quality that I appreciate. Just like, let's not beat around the bush. Let's just get to it, but not in a way that's like, aggressive. I think when you can just sit down, for Abby and I, the best way I can receive it is if it's not brought harshly.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's always going to be
That's
the key. Yeah.
Don't tear someone down to correct them. Right?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
My wife's got a great approach. She's like, "I love you, but."
So then, right then.
Then you know
That's-
right
I
there.
love you,
Yeah.
but
What were
you got to stop
thinking?
that.
Yeah, that's right. And then so she's probably learned, well, this is how Darren receives it, so I'm going to do it this way. Yeah, that's good.
Then I got to be careful, like, am I giving it or receiving it?
Right.
Because I want to give it. That's where I struggle a lot, too, because sometimes I could come off real abrasive or harsh, but then I have to be able to accept it in the same way.
So many of the
You know what I mean?
younger guys at the church, they'll come to me and be like, will you get Micah? And I was like, what? He tell me I need to be out there cutting grass, and I don't know. He don't know why I'm not helping serve here. And I'm just like, listen, you just go learn to deal with Micah. That's Micah. Micah's gonna always, he's gonna always challenge you. So just get used. It's good for you. You'll be, you'll get used to it.
I really love Dennis's question because we all know we need correction, right? I don't think anybody denies that they need correction from time to time. Otherwise, we would be perfect, and
That's right.
we wouldn't be here. But it is important to know not only how you receive correction the best way, but also how you give correction. That was a great thing to bring up because you need to know something about the other person to know how to deliver correction in a way that's effective. Otherwise, it does no good. It hits a brick wall, it bounces off, and they just go on and they haven't received anything. So not only do we need to learn how to receive correction, but we do need to know how to give correction to people in the way that they will receive it.
That's
best.
good.
That's correct.
That's so good. That's such a leadership perspective too, because when you look at the whole picture instead of just being able to see it through your lens, and I think in order to do that, you have to be able to take a step out of your own, the way that you see it, and try to look at it through the way that they, would see it, and then bring it in that. That's a lot of the times I think the way I try to, from a psychological standpoint, is like to try to see where are they coming from, and then meet there, and then even, then say, well, but this is what, like, I think it's very interesting psychologically too, how you have to be able to do that in order to lead well too. It's my belief that you have to know how to do that, or people will never grow around you.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's so good.
That's why, like, I think it's important too. Like I would say the freshman here, not by age, but by, I would say, walking with the Lord and y'all's leadership. So it's important that I see you all, guys like yourselves and gentlemen like Pastor Dennis and guys that have been doing it a while, how they go into correcting others and how they lead others and how they receive certain things. Or I would not. Pastor Tim knows me good enough. Like, I'm rough around the edges, gentlemen. You know what I mean? So it's like so it's important that I surround myself with the guys like you all.
Yeah.
Because it teaches me and shows guys like myself and the guys that are going to, and other leaders that are going to be brought up in the church. Because we got a whole posse of guys that are going to be brought up as leaders within the church.
Iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
And they're like raring to go. They're hungry, and then it's like, okay, it's like, what are we going to?
Yep.
Right.
So
what are we going to do? But it's so funny because you say that, and it's like, okay, so then you go into it like from a leadership perspective, and I love it because You both, like you've started that men's group and you've participated in every men's group. But in doing so, what's happened is, and you just heard it, even from Micah, who you come in, he's a leader at the church. Now he's saying, but you're a leader to me, and I think that's cool too, because you both have been very proactive in making disciples and teaching, like teaching men how to be raised up, how to be men, how to be, and husbands, how to be friends. And so, I appreciate that about you guys, that proactiveness that you've both have carried, and just like this morning, you reaching out to Micah, not knowing like that, Micah, this is hitting Micah in a way that's going to sharpen him to be able to, and so I just love that approach.
Well, the one thing I will say, and we're on time, but going to the men's Bible study, I came in thinking, okay, well, I can talk intelligently here and, know what they're talking about, what they're saying, and I can actually have something to say. But I'm going to tell you, I was humbled by a lot of the conversations that went on based on spirituality and what they know about the books of the Bible. Yeah. And there were some things I took away, and from you too, Micah. We all learn from each other.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I've learned from you and Darren and obviously Tim, but some of these guys that attend, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
And, like I said, the only word I can say was humbling for me. And
that's so good.
It's been a great experience, and that's why I like going to them.
Yeah.
Spoken by a true leader.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Humility.
But, I do, last thing I'll say, and then because I don't think Tiffany has any fingers left. But I will say that like that's the approach of like that humility to come in and understand the need for diversity too. Yeah. Because like what do we do if we only hang around with people like ourselves that has our experience? Then, and I always tell people that because there's times people come to me, they're like, well, I feel like we're losing the heart, like or whatever, and whatever the case may be. So you just have to be able to say like, why can I not learn from somebody that's completely different? That's the open-mindedness that I believe that the kingdom has to have in order to grow. Yes. And so I do love that, man. Because there, like you guys probably know this, obviously, I would say our church was pretty not diverse when it first started. It was a lot of people with similar backgrounds doing, and we always were passionate about what we did, but there wasn't a ton of diversity among it. Almost a lot. There was a few people here and there, like Pastor Dennis, who had different backgrounds. So but from day one of the Reach, when we went to the park for the first time, I prayed and I knew, and I've had to fight through some stuff to get there, but I knew it was going to be a very diverse thing as it, evolved and God continued to build it. I knew it was going to be, but like it was a process getting there. Mm-hmm. You have to break off certain stigmas from your ministry. You have to, like people have to understand that they can connect with you if you are different, and they have to have that mindset that you just talked about. And so I'm so excited about the future of what God's going to do through our church and through so many of you guys that come in and have a vision and like you pursue it, and it just strengthens the body. I love it. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, well,
good stuff.
Yeah, it's been fun, guys. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, this has been really fun. There we go. And so we'll see you guys Sunday, hopefully at church, 10:30 a.m. The Reach United or 6:30 p.m. God bless you guys. Thank you guys for coming.